Good evening. Thanks for joining us. Some new warnings ahead of hunting season you need to know about. The DNR is saying PFAS contamination in the Bay of Green Bay is showing up in tests for ducks. That's happening just 3 weeks before duck hunting season begins in parts of our area. Let's turn to Cammie now for a closer look at where this is taking place.
Yeah, we're going to take a look at this map right now. It's the Wisconsin Department of Natural Resources and the Department of Health Services issuing this alarm, a consumption advisory for 2 different areas right here on the Bay of Green Bay. This red area, which is right outside the city of Green Bay, it warns everyone not to eat any mallard mussel meat from that general area in the southern part of the Bay of Green Bay. This large yellow area that extends out to Oconto and Marinette and Sturgeon Bay. They're saying that mallards are only safe to eat once per month and wood ducks once per week. You can take a closer look at that map at WBAY.com. Doesn't stop there, though. The PFAS contamination also happening in the North Woods. Fish collected from Oneida County's Moen Lake chain and Snowden Lake showed PFAS contamination too. And within 5 miles of the town of Stella Town Hall, there is guidance concerning PFAS and deer. The DNR saying that consumption of muscle tissue is 1 time per month at most, and there is a do not eat advisory for any deer liver. For more details on this, go to our website, WBAY.com. But first, Victoria Frazier speaks with experts about the contamination. She's joining us live in Green Bay with more details. Victoria.
Yeah, Cammie, the Wisconsin DNR conducted a 3-year survey collecting samples from waterfalls, and they found that they were contaminated with PFAS, also known as forever chemicals, which can be harmful if consumed, leaving hunters to figure out how to navigate this upcoming harvest season safely.
I was surprised, obviously, 3 weeks before the season. That isn't what a duck hunter wants to hear.
Roger Hansen is the president of the Green Bay Duck Hunters Association, a hunting club with over 100 members.
Southern Green Bay has a very rich duck hunting tradition, history. One of the probably most densely hunted areas in the state of Wisconsin, next to the Mississippi River.
The Wisconsin DNR recently issuing a consumption advisory after finding mallards and wood ducks in the lower bay of Green Bay were contaminated with PFAS, a man-made chemical that can build up in the human body over time, creating health risks if consumed.
We're hoping to get the waterfowl biologist from Madison to come to our next meeting and answer some of the questions.
That advisory causing concern for some hunters ahead of the upcoming harvest season.
We've seen it all, most of us in our career as hunters.
Wisconsin DNR officials say it will be difficult to monitor where the contaminated species came from as waterfowls begin to migrate.
If we're collecting samples of different species of different birds throughout October through December, we're not sure if that bird was, it was here in Green Bay potentially when it was harvested, but we don't know if that bird picked it up, on the breeding grounds or on its way through.
As a retired game warden for the DNR, while Hansen recommends you should never ignore an advisory, he still feels people can get out and enjoy the hunting season with precaution.
We've seen it all, most of us in our career as hunters, so I don't think it's going to make any difference at all. I believe that more people are going to continue to hunt.
Now, the DNR says it is only an advisory, so people are still able to go out and enjoy the upcoming hunting season, but they do recommend that you limit the amount of mallard that you intake to once a month and the amount of wood duck to only once a week. Reporting live in Green Bay, Victoria Frazier, Action 2 News.